Good afternoon, everyone. It's 4:35. It's time to start. Can everybody hear me?
I do.
All right, sounds good. I see a thumbs up from Ann Enos. Hi, Ann. Hope all's well. Well, welcome this afternoon to the State of the Commercial Real Estate in Rhode Island. We have 4 presenters today from each one of the sub-markets in Rhode Island. We have someone reporting for the Kent County area, the South County area, along with Newport and Northern Rhode Island. So we have all four corners of the state covered. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Michael Sicoscio, President of the Rhode Island Commercial and Appraisal Board, and the moderator for today's event. Again, thank you for your time on this snowy afternoon, and let's see what we can do to get started. I'd like to thank our 4 sponsors today for their continued support for our board. They're Advantage Builders, along with Sage Environmental, Centerville Bank, and Alpha Electrical Contractors. This is one of 4 of our series that we do in the course of the year. So expect to see another one in 3 or 4 months. So we will keep you posted about that, and we can move along to our next and first presenter. I'd like to welcome Paul Harrison. Paul Harrison is our president-elect, along with being affiliated with Abbott Properties in the Warwick office. So I'll hand off the screen to Paul, and he can start his presentation of Kent County Marketplace, along with the Washington Marketplace. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm doing the Kent and Washington County areas.
Correct.
Jack, if you could go to the next screen. Okay, so I did quite a bit of research with, and I have a lot of numbers that I like. I'm a numbers guy, so I hope I'm not going to bore anyone. But vacancy in the industrial market has decreased to. This is in the Washington County industrial market. Vacancy in the industrial market has decreased to 6.6% over the past year. 870 square feet has been absorbed and 140K delivered. Rents are around $11 a square foot, which is a 10.5 increase from a year ago. Nothing new is under construction, but there has been recent activity. There's been 340 square feet of net deliveries over the past year. And that come to find out that 340,000 square feet was utilized by the Quonset Development and Rhode Island Commerce, which I found interesting. Washington County has 8 sales over the past year with an average selling price of $1.4 million. Cap rate sits at right at 8.3%. Next slide, please, Jack. Washington County retail market. Washington County is a regular target among retail investors in the Providence Metro. Vacancy in the Washington County retail submarket is 3.3% and has increased by 0.2% over the past 12 months. 17,000 square feet has been delivered, and there's been 320 square feet of negative absorption. General retail is the largest subtype with 4.6 million square feet in this category. Rents are around $18.60 a square foot, which is a 1.2 increase from where they were a year ago. The past 3 years, it increased of right around 9.2%. About 37,000 square feet is under construction. 24 sales have taken place. Sales have averaged 210 square foot, and the estimated value of the submarket as a whole is $184 a square foot. Next slide, please, Jack. Vacancy, this is Kent County, East Greenwich retail and industrial market. Vacancy in the retail market has decreased to 1.1%. Absorption rate for EG retail is a positive 1.2%. Rent stands approximately around $17.70 a square foot. Rents have declined slightly from a year ago. On a 3-year average, rents increased to 5.2%. Sales average price sits at $159 per square foot, and there is no new construction forecast for this coming year. And I also added in here East Greenwich Industrial. There's, once again, no new construction, negative absorption rate. Rents have increased 32% in the past 3 years. The price per square foot average runs about $82.50 per square foot. Next slide, please, Jack. Kent County, Coventry, and West Greenwich retail. Coventry, West Greenwich, and surrounding areas retail. Vacancy has increased 1.3% over the past 12 months. 32,000 square feet has been delivered. Out of the 32,000, 5K has been absorbed. Rents average right around the $17.70 per square foot. Nothing new is currently under construction. 13 sales have taken place this past year with an average sale price of $160 per square foot. The cap rate sits at 7.2%. Next slide, please. Kent County, Coventry, and West Greenwich, industrial. Vacancy is 5.1% and has increased 2.1 over the past 12 months. There has been a 69,000 square foot of negative absorption and no net deliveries. Rents average $14 per square foot, which is a 10.4 increase from where they were a year ago. In the past 3 years, rents have increased a cumulative of 39.5%. About 16,000 square feet is under construction. 4 sales have taken place this past year with an average sale price of $50 per square foot. Cap rate sits at 8.1%. Next slide, please, Jack. Warwick and surrounding areas, industrial, 260,000 square feet delivered in the past 12 months. 9,600 has been absorbed. Rents average right around the $12 per square foot. This is a 9.9 increase from a year ago. Sales of industrial, it averaged right around the $81 per square foot. 13 sales in this past year with an average sale price of $1.4 million. And I've been noticing on a lot of this industrial, it's basically in the logistics market on most of the areas. That is, they're taking up the most space. Next slide, please. Now, the Kent County Warwick retail in the surrounding areas. Vacancy has increased to 1.2% over the past year. The negative absorption rate sits at 97,000 with 3,800 square feet has been delivered this past year. Rents average at a $21 per square foot, 1.8% increase over the past year. Nothing currently is under construction. Average sales sits at approximately $150 per square foot. Cap average rate is 7.2%. We found that investors have been active in the Warwick area for retail. Annual sales in the past 5 years was $38 million. This year alone, sales reached $25.6 million. Next slide. Kent County Warwick office. Vacancy in the Warwick office submarket is 8.6% and has increased over 1.3 over the past year. There has been 40,000 square feet of negative absorption and 27,000 square feet has been delivered. Total availability, which includes sublease space, is 14.9 of all inventory. Rents are around $22 a square foot, which is a marginal 0.2 increase from where they were a year ago. In the past 3 years, rents have increased of approximately 9.5%. Nothing currently is under construction. Around 59,000 square feet of net deliveries have been brought online in the past 3 years. 14 sales have taken place. Sales average $120 a square foot, and the estimated value for the submarket as a whole is $122 a square foot. Cap rate average is 9.9%. That's my presentation. I would like to say that I noticed in the commercial market, I've been taking, I went to a conference in Atlanta, and in the commercial real estate sector, throughout the country, they're really working on transferring over office space into residential. So today I went on the MLS and I was wondering on, 5 units and over for the multifamilies throughout the area. There was only 9 that was available throughout the state, which I found very, very interesting. But I think what we're going to see in the next few years, it's just my opinion, is a lot of, you can see there's no new construction. There's not much at all, only in one or two markets. I think that you're going to see the government is pushing for this, and also the federal government is pushing for this, state and federal, and they want to increase residential housing and commercial real estate. I kind of found that interesting. But thank you for your time. Any questions? I'm happy to answer them. Thanks.
Well, have you seen any significant projects that are somewhat unique, like a hydroponic thing or a microbrewery or anything other than logistics that might be an interest to our audience?
Yeah, I do see on the retail sector, it is picking up. But I called around to before I was researching this, I called around to the different towns, and Mike, they didn't really give me that much information on that.
Right.
That they have under now. I believe it was in Washington County that they do have a few building permits, but they weren't privy to me on releasing the information.
Right. Mhm. I know one of the takeaways from this one in the past for me and some of the participants is to hear about some unique opportunities, out there. Last time it was a lot of users looking for pickleball courts. We had a garage dominium in Newport and some other interesting ones. It's interesting also to see that we're starting to see a lot of redevelopment of the commercial buildings into residential. A
Right.
National Association of Realtors is really sending a message loud and clear to commercial participants that we're the ones that can help move the inventory and add to the inventory by doing those large projects, converting a school or an office building it's typically mixed use with some retail in the lower level maybe, and
Yeah.
some residential units above. I'm working on a daycare. We've got the project under wraps, but competition it was a closed school to turn it into a residential condominium. So,
Right. I'm seeing a
Jack, I
lot
know you.
light industrial, the contractor garage units that they're really climbing in price right now per square foot wise, sale and leasing. Those are pretty hot from what I can see in this so far.
I'm gonna put one under contract that's 2,500 square feet and is gonna be close to $300,000. So
Yeah,
yeah, they're a hot commodity.
they are.
Good. All right. Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate that. And again, thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Enjoy your afternoon.
Thanks.
Next on is Steve Flashback. Steve is with Hayes and Sherry, and he'll be doing his presentation of the area of his expertise. So welcome aboard, Steve, and we're looking forward to hearing from you as well. Incidentally, our chat is open. So if you have any questions of our participants during their presentation, put them in there on the chat, and I will hope as moderator to get those put into your questions answered and for you. So that's all yours, Steve. Go ahead.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Hello,
Welcome.
everyone. I'm Steve Flashbart with Hayes and Sherry, and I'm going to be talking about Providence and East Providence submarkets. The after effects of the pandemic continue to impact how people want to live, work, and play. Consumers and companies have been moving forward and making decisions, although they continue to deal with macro issues such as inflation and the ever-evolving new office standards. This has had a diverse effect on various commercial real estate sectors, and several sectors have continued to perform well. Industrial, education, multifamily, and medical all remain in high demand and limited quality options available. Retail demand remains consistent, while office has had mixed results and continues to show its softness. The availability in industrial is limited before the pandemic, and the increased needs of e-commerce, manufacturing, logistics, distribution have kept market vacancy low. The largest issue for industrial remains the lack of quality supply on the market for either lease or sale. Providence industrial vacancy has remained flat around 5% over the past year. East Providence did have a slight increase in available space from about 3% to just 6.5% currently. However, most of the current available space does not meet the modern high bay industrial needs, which has created an opportunity for developers. Most of the opportunity will be in the suburbs, such as North Point's recently developed 500,000 square foot high bay Class A warehouse at Commerce Drive near TF Green. Medical demand has remained consistent, which shares the lack of quality available supply that industrial faces. This has continued to push rental rates, and mid-20s triple net is common depending on location and quality. Retail activity is consistent with consumers spending on entertainment and restaurants. We've continued to see optimism from retail tenants, which has led to opening new locations. Providence retail vacancies were 5.5% a year ago and has since decreased to 3.6% currently. East Providence retail has experienced a similar improvement from 5.3% in the fourth quarter of 2022 to 3.9%. Any quality location with reusable existing conditions is in demand. Vacant spaces that are raw and lack existing infrastructure are much harder to move, as they are hampered by high construction costs and supply chain delays for tenants' equipment. We expect these sectors to continue to remain strong, though, because of their competitive advantages and existing barriers to entry to add more supply. This brings me to the softest sector, multi-tenant office leasing, which continues to receive lots of attention by the media, since the hybrid trend for office workers has become the norm for many corporations. One saving grace for the office market is that office leases typically are long-term, multi-year deals, and this has provided some stability for landlords. However, as the leases signed before the pandemic continue to expire, the tenants with a better understanding of their long-term needs put space on the sublease market. Available space has continued to increase. Overall office availability in Providence saw its largest year-over-year increase since the start of the pandemic, moving from 14% a year ago to 19% now. The Class A market saw a larger increase in available space, moving from 14.7% a year ago to 24.7% currently. Sublease space has had a significant impact on the Class A market, with roughly half of that increase in available space coming from tenants attempting to sublease their space. We've seen that trend in larger markets across the country for several years, but it's really started to impact the Providence Class A space. There is also still more shadow space in the Providence Class A market that's not actively being marketed, and it will continue to impact the overall vacancy as corporations with long-term leases continue to roll. East Providence, which has a much smaller supply of office space, actually saw a positive absorption over the past year as well, as quality suburban buildings are benefiting from tenants wanting shorter commutes and free parking to make it easier for hybrid workers to come into the office. One trend that should help the Providence office market is that supply side is being reduced by several market trends, which we expect to continue. Older historic buildings are being converted to multifamily to capitalize on increased rents and demand. In addition, user acquisitions, mainly from healthcare or academic institutions, combined with the lack of new office development, have also protected the sector against price deterioration and increased vacancy. What is positive about office demand is that many traditional office tenants have confidence to make decisions. Many companies are permanently including a hybrid work environment in their culture and are pursuing a reduction in their space. Even with the high rates of available Class A space, there remains a flight to quality trend as tenants are desiring Class A standards and amenities to attract employees who actually come into the office. The downsized footprints allows tenants to pursue higher quality buildings and still reduce overall rental cost. The properties seeing the most activity have been built or renovated somewhat recently and are offering on-site amenities such as dining, fitness, conference centers, employee lounges, and sometimes even parking. I've seen this flight to quality trend at Davall Square, where Wexford completed a $15 million renovation. While the office market has increased in vacancy, Davall Square has seen positive absorption each of the past several years. We expect that trend to continue. Davall Square has also addressed a key pay point for most tenants, which is having employees pay for monthly parking, even though they are not coming into the office every day. Tenants there have a flexible parking pass program in the adjacent parking deck that allows you to pay a reduced amount per swipe instead of only offering the typical monthly parking rate. Flexible parking will remain an issue for tenants, although most Providence landlords have not addressed it. While market activity is consistent, we expect overall vacancy rates to continue to increase in 2024 in Providence, as larger corporate tenants continue to downsize their downtown locations. We expect suburban locations like East Providence to remain relatively flat due to consistent tenant demand and supply side not being overbuilt. Mike, please go to the next slide.
That's, Jack,
While sales volume has decreased from a couple years ago, largely due to the higher interest rates, there is still investor capital on the sideline looking to get into commercial real estate, which feels like a relatively safe investment compared to other assets. Owner-occupied purchases have also remained consistent for both investors and owner users. Commercial real estate provides a hedge against inflation, and key market segments that we discussed, such as multifamily, education, and medical, have performed well. In Providence, Brown University exercised an option to purchase their 136,000 square foot condo for $54 million at South Street Landing, which they've leased for the past 6 years. The beautiful high-end space had been a successful redevelopment of the former power station, and the condo supports 500 employees. In another example of an education purchase, a charter school, the Rhode Island Nurses Institute Middle College, purchased their building at 150 Washington Street for $15 million. The $12.7 million sale at 29 Terminal, the $8 million sale at 288 Allens, and the $4.7 million sale at 15 Bath Street were all industrial owner-user sales, showing the strength of that market sector. The main sales in East Providence also show the strength of the industrial, retail, and multifamily. The retail land at 854 Taunton Avenue was sold for $6.8 million to Belize Auto Group. 3 properties at 330 Taunton Avenue were sold to One Neighborhood Builders, who has plans for 160 units of affordable housing. 3350 Pawtucket Avenue sold for $2.3 million, and 45 Patton sold for $1.6 million. Both were examples of industrial sales activity. And there are plenty of other smaller examples as well that show investor and user confidence in warehouse, medical, and multifamily. And Jack, please go to my final slide. New development momentum has been impressive in Providence, especially in the I-195 land. One of the most exciting developments underway is the Life Sciences building on parcel 25. And Cora is developing a new 208,000 square foot facility anchored by the Rhode Island State Health Lab, who will be occupying 64,000 square feet. Brown University will also be occupying lab space there, and there will be about 104,000 square feet for private lab tenants, which will be important to have some existing lab infrastructure available for third-party leasing. The facility will be completed in 2025. There is a synergistic project being pursued a couple blocks away at parcels 14 and 15, right by the river. The unique project would include a phase 1 development of 189,000 square foot residential complex with 149 units. The second phase, though, includes a redevelopment of Brown University's 2-story office building at 200 Dyer Street. Combining the Brown site with parcels 14 and 15 allows the developer to build more than 500,000 square feet of total development, with around 400,000 square feet of commercial, office, and lab uses. This development is in addition to another approved project by Brown in the Jewelry District, which is a 300,000 square foot state-of-the-art life sciences and lab building located at Richmond and Ship Streets across from Brown's Medical School. The lab building will focus on researchers in biology, medicine, brain science, bioengineering, and public health. Other new projects in the pipeline include a 2-phase, 150,000 square foot mixed income residential project by Penrose, which will include 130 units on parcel 9 and will feature a 7,000 square foot childcare center. Phase 1 is estimated at $30 million. Peb Capital was just recently approved for 191 residential units for their properties at 45 Bassett Street. The proposal includes a portion of parcel 34, showing another developer combining private land with the I-195 parcels. Urbanica has plans for developing parcel 2 with a 6-story, 140,000 square foot complex featuring 171 units. The complex will feature an 8,000 square foot space for retail. DNP, who is the developer who built Trader Joe's on parcel 6, has another 240,000 square foot mixed use office development for parcels 8 and 8A, and the project would include 114 residential units. And considering the parcel 6, which is the new Trader Joe's building, they have 62 residential units, and the additional 9,000 square feet has been fully leased as well, showing that the strength of College Hill is moving into the I-195 district. So it's exciting how much new development is in process, and medical and lab and education are all over the I-195 district right now, and multifamily is being developed throughout as well. So the key market sectors are continuing to perform well throughout. With that, Mike, back to you.
Thank you. I know there was one question in the chat and you addressed it quite well. Are you tracking research and development in laboratory space? And I think your presentation presented a good picture of, there's a lot of activity in downtown for that. I think anybody that
Yeah.
hasn't been downtown will be surprised on how much work is being done there. As one of our people, past governor, said, there's cranes in the sky, and there actually are a lot of cranes in the sky and projects going on. You know, I asked
Yeah,
about. Go ahead.
it's amazing driving around the jewelry district nowadays. I mean, the amount of new buildings that are going up, the amount of buildings that have already been built and been completed. It's really awesome to see kind of all the fruition of decades worth of work in here really coming together and finally seeing all this development.
It's interesting. The downtown is shifted towards the waterfront. The activity, there's more of activity there than we see downtown, at least pedestrian activity.
Yeah, agreed.
One of the unique things that I'm seeing, I've read, nationwide office space has been down quite a bit. And it appears that Rhode Island hasn't been hit that much with the loss of large companies downtown. Can you comment about that?
Yeah, I think Providence as a whole just has never been
It's not the
overbuilt.
major player.
So our supply side isn't overbuilt, and the supply side is actually somewhat decreasing as these office buildings continue to be converted to residential. And I think that's a play that's going to continue to happen. And we're not losing any of the corporations that are here. We're just seeing them downsize. And we are seeing sublease space being put on the market, especially in the Class A buildings. So the downsizing is real, but with Providence not being overbuilt, I think long term, the demand will be there to kind of backfill the space.
Right. Anything else you'd like to add?
Not right now.
All right, sounds good. We'll move on to the next presenter. Steve, thank you for your detailed presentation. I know there's a lot of hard work that went into that, so kudos to you. Great job. Thank you.
Thanks.
Next presenter, we have Julie Freshman. Julie, thank you for volunteering to help out our board. Julie's with MG Commercial in their Providence office, and go to it, Julie. It's all yours.
You're muted, Julie.
Julie's muted. I don't know if she can hear us.
Sorry about that.
There
I'll
you
start
go.
over. Thank
Oh,
you.
we can hear you now, Julie.
Hi, everyone.
afternoon.
Thanks for joining us today. I'll be talking about the office, industrial, and retail sectors in Northern Rhode Island. In general, there is steady and strong demand from local, regional, and national companies due to Northern Rhode Island's proximity to Providence, Worcester, and Boston, and the interstate highway systems that connect them, making it an ideal location for businesses serving these areas. Can go ahead to the next slide. The Northern Rhode Island office market is stable with low inventory continuing through 2024. Employees have come back to the office with many on hybrid work schedules. There is still some sublease space available from national tenants and CVS suppliers that have continued to work remotely and are downsized due to hybrid work schedules. Although CVS and Fidelity are struggling with the remote work life, so they are implementing rules and schedules to attempt to get employees back to the office. Rental rates have remained consistent over the past couple of years, ranging from $15 a square foot modified gross on the low side to $20 per square foot on the high side for Class A space. Companies wanting to relocate north of Providence, whether they're looking for Class A or B office space, will have a short list of options. The lack of inventory has held office lease rates at pre-pandemic levels, with landlords offering limited tenant concessions. The highest activity in Northern Rhode Island office market has been in the 3,000 to 5,000 square foot range, with some occasional larger transactions. Some examples of recent office activity in the northern part of the state are shown on this slide. On the office sales transactions that have happened recently, 2-Way Robin Road in Lincoln sold for $7 million. 356 Clinton Street in Woonsocket sold for $3.6 million. It went from CVS to Thunder Mist. 6 Blackstone Valley Place, 10,000 square feet there, sold for $1.7 million. 11 Blackstone Valley Place in Lincoln sold for $3 million. On the office lease transaction side, some recent ones are Neurotech that leased 21,000 square feet at 900 Highland Corporate Park Drive in Cumberland. High Purity that leased 11,700 square feet, 36 Thurber Boulevard in Smithfield, and a 4,300 square foot lease to CAI Software at 24 Albion in Lincoln. Can go to the next slide. On the industrial side in Northern Rhode Island, the Northern Rhode Island industrial market is still exhibiting vacancy rates in the 1% to 2% range for modern single-story industrial buildings. Tenants in the market seeking industrial space in the northern part of the state are still hindered by a lack of options due to the overwhelming demand for industrial space over the past few years. Similarly, there is an even greater shortage of industrial buildings available for sale. As was the case over the past several years, demand for industrial space in Northern Rhode Island continues to come from logistics, medical supply, public storage, and direct-to-consumer sectors, as well as from manufacturers, contractors, and engineering firms within the alternative energy and environmental sectors like wind, water, and solar. Public and self-storage is getting pushback, though, from almost all municipalities at this point, so this bubble may burst soon. Lease rates are in the $6 to $7 per square foot range triple net for bulk warehouse space, in the $7 to $8 per square foot range for general purpose industrial space, and in the $8 to $10 per square foot range for flex space. Sale prices have continued to range from anywhere from $65 a square foot to as high as $100 per square foot or greater for 20,000 to 50,000 square foot industrial buildings, depending on the age and condition. Pricing seems to have leveled off with the increase in interest rates, but due to demand still being higher than supply, we haven't seen pricing come down much. High construction costs keep the demand side somewhat tempered also. Construction costs for industrial buildings are in the $150 to $300 per square foot range. Despite the cost of construction, there are some speculative and build-to-suit warehouse development projects in the works in Northern Rhode Island due to the limited supply of space. For example, a 160,000 square foot industrial building is planned for 1 Mashasik Road in Pawtucket, and an out-of-state developer is planning a 1 million square foot warehouse distribution facility on George Washington Highway in Smithfield. However, due to the cost of construction, lease rates are generally in the teens per square foot triple net for these projects, which ends up pricing out local companies that need space for growth. At 1 Mashasik Road, site work has started, and the space can likely be delivered 12 months after a lease is executed. Some recent activity in the industrial market in the northern part of the state is presented on this slide. On the sale side, 263 Jenks Hill Road in Lincoln was a single tenant investment sale for $2 million. 670 to 710 Narragansett Park Drive in Pawtucket was a multi-tenant investment sale for $8.9 million. And 21 Business Park Drive in Smithfield was purchased by the tenant, which was Verizon New England, for $2.37 million. On the lease side, 678 George Washington Highway, 35,000 square feet there was leased to Boss Log, which is a third-party logistics company. 30,700 square feet at 1 Privilege Street in Woonsocket was leased to Callie Rose, an online retail company. And 1 Carding Lane in Johnston, 65,000 square feet there was leased to Fisher Auto Parts. Can go ahead to the next slide. The retail inventory in Northern Rhode Island is on the low side, and lease rates have remained relatively flat. Rates vary greatly by location, ranging from $12 per square foot to $30 per square foot, triple net for inline and end cap locations. Freestanding buildings with drive-throughs and spaces in the Lincoln Mall, Smithfield Commons, and Apple Valley Mall lease at higher rates in the $30 to $35 per square foot range, triple net. Recent retail activity and demand in the northern part of the state has been from fast food concepts with drive-throughs, coffee, bakery, plant-based food concepts, urgent cares, beauty salons, car washes, and physical therapy groups. Landlords have been able to attract strong tenants, but they have needed to be more aggressive with their tenant improvement allowances. Some activities of recent activity in the retail side is presented on this slide. At 1300 Eddie Dowling Highway in Lincoln was sold for $2.35 million. It's an auto dealership property. 300 Barton Street in Pawtucket, a retail strip center, was sold for $5.35 million. And 1703 Mineral Spring Ave in North Providence, where there's a Lowe's, was sold for $15.3 million. Recent retail lease transactions include 3,000 square feet that was leased to Mastery Martial Arts at 1725 Mendon Road in Cumberland. 3,300 square feet on Atwood Avenue in Johnston that was leased to Raising Cane's, which is starting to become a popular fast food chicken place. And Galileo Skate Park was leased, 17,000 square feet was leased to Galileo Skate Park at Diamond Hill Plaza in Woonsocket. And Fresenius leased 11,690 square feet at the Lincoln Commons in Lincoln. In summary, the Northern Rhode Island commercial real estate market has remained solid with high demand and low inventory to continue into the foreseeable future. Vacancy rates will remain low, and we will likely see some new construction and build-to-suit leasing projects, specifically in the industrial sector. Thank you very much.
We have a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
I've asked some of the presenters one of the unique properties that you've seen, and one of them stands out to me as a skate park that took 17,000 square feet of space. What in the world are they doing in there?
There's a lot of demand for like indoor recreational,
Right.
you know, concepts in general.
Right.
I believe they took part of the the old Burlington space there, Coke Factory. But yeah, it's I mean, we see pickleball, any type of indoor sports, recreation, even some outdoor, you know, there's a lot of demand for that still.
So they're doing indoor hockey maybe and ice hockey simultaneously maybe?
With the skate park, I'm not sure, but
Okay.
yeah, there's just a big demand for you know, that type of those type of activities, whether it's kids or adults, you know.
There's a change in the demographics. I read the other day that there's a increase in the emergency room for older people with accidents because they're out playing pickleball in their
Yeah.
60s.
Yeah.
So, yep, it's all multi-generational.
Yeah, it is.
How some of the logistic companies, are they spin-offs for the future of Amazon? Is that what's going on? Or they're independent of that?
Yeah, some of that, you know, a lot of them do become our delivery and logistics companies that work for Amazon, you know, and other online retailers.
Fine.
So there's still a demand for that. It's flattened a bit, you know, on that end of things. But
Any unusual conversions to residential? Not too much in your area, I don't think.
yeah, not in Northern Rhode Island. I mean, we do see a demand for land, you know, and redevelopment, you know, land development projects for residential. We've been seeing a lot of that for multi-unit residential, high density residential.
It's interesting too, one of the other comments that the municipalities are not excited about self-storage anymore, just a glut of it. Is that what they're thinking?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't create a lot of jobs, you know, for the area. There's usually like 1 or 2 people staffing a self-storage facility.
Right.
So, yeah, and it's just not there was a lot of them that popped up over the last few years. So,
Right. Yeah, I go up and down Plainfield Pike and there's 2 or 3 new ones there. So yeah,
Yeah.
they're popping up all over.
yeah,
I think we'll see a stop on that.
I think it's gonna slow. Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you very much. I know you put a lot of hard work in this and we appreciate your time and thank you on behalf of the board. All
Yeah,
right,
thank
let's
you.
move on to the next. Enjoy your evening. Our next presenter is one of our newest members of our board. I'd like to welcome Molly Kirby. Molly is with Kirby and Kirby, one of the newest commercial brokerages in Newport. So a company that she's taken over for her dad or hired her dad. I heard it was an interview.
Yep.
So, we can comment on that later. But the stage is all yours and present away.
Great. Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
We can go to the next slide. So I'm covering all the same topics everyone else did. I did add a little bit of hospitality trends, not necessarily hard data because I knew I'd be the last person and I didn't want everyone to go to sleep on me. So I'm first going to start off with the office market. So specifically the small office market. Small office market remains strong. People are continuing to look for space to work outside of their homes. People being local entrepreneurs are looking at these spaces, as well as corporate roles who work remotely or hybrid. There's been an interesting trend since the beginning of 2023, which is that some corporations are actually allotting their a budget for employees to rent space outside of their home, which is really interesting if they're in that full remote and they're trying to, retain their employees long term. Another trend we've seen is that people are really favoring the closed door office versus a collaborative space. The collaborative market was really hot for a little while, but I think functionally people want closed door private office. This is interesting, and we saw this last year. So in 2023, Newport County had the highest increase in second home purchases nationally, which is a 64% year over year. So we had a lot of single office leasing for people with second homes. They didn't necessarily use the office full time, but we saw it specifically in the Newport proper market because it was the office buildings where there's zero parking, but it's right downtown and a walk away from their home. That was a really interesting kind of trickle effect from this surge in second home purchases. And then overall, landlords with larger spaces have begun to understand, via the data and the low vacancy rate for these small offices, that, the vacancy rate will be lower and the gross rent higher if we can find a way to break up their spaces and host multiple tenants. Next.
Jack, next slide.
Thanks, Jack.
Thanks, Jack.
So this is kind of like the larger office market. Again, just like overall trends. So I would say the large office demand is shrinking. Businesses continue to work on a hybrid model that we all know and need less space. However, vacancy rates still remain as low as 3.5%. Many businesses who have these large spaces are looking to improve or upgrade their spaces to provide an enjoyable place for their employees to work in an effort to increase retention. I think someone had previously mentioned that. But what's interesting is by mid-2023, we started to see a lot of Department of Defense contracts starting to expand. Many of these contracts, however, require an office and industrial blend, which we all know is, is hard to find. It's not our traditional office space. And then again, we've already mentioned this, but the new state laws that are superseding municipal laws that were effective January 1st support the conversion of office space to residential by way of changing the density and parking requirements. This is still too new to speak on because, it's increased people's interest in buildings, but I haven't seen a conversion yet, obviously, because it was in effect January 1st, but it will be interesting to watch long-term. Next, Jack, thank you. Okay, so the retail market, I would say this has probably been the same report the past 3 years. There's just little to no vacancy. So it's historically low vacancy rates in both the tourist areas, so downtown Newport, but also in kind of like the community centers, like strip areas. This has again been a trend for 2 years now. Retail rates are increasing slowly due to low inventory. I would say the overall temperature read from retailers is that staffing is still their largest hurdle, but sales support their decision to renew their leases. We've seen a big change in mostly downtown Newport, where people are kind of shrinking their hours to combat the staffing issues. So they'll be open, Thursday to Monday and then, take Tuesday, Wednesday off. So, and that's directly affected by the lack of affordable housing. And quite frankly, if you are going to get a job in downtown Newport, it's hard to compete with working at a restaurant and making X amount per day versus sitting at a retail desk. But 2 big box vacancies I wanted to mention, which is Bed Bath & Beyond and Christmas Tree Shop. I mean, there are 2, I would foresee those will be vacant for a while, but with this new development, it could be a great candidate for the conversion of commercial space to residential. But an interesting change of use that happened, I know we've been talking about this, is the movie theater right next to Home Depot in Middletown that's set to close middle of next month, I believe. It's the movie theater's going out of business and they're selling it to a developer who's doing pickleball courts. So that's kind of an interesting change of use. All right, next slide. Hospitality market, the biggest theme for 2023 and going into 2024 was a change in short-term regulations. So in 2023, effective June 1st, short-term rental regulations changed. And to get a license to have a transient guest house is what it's called. You could only be in the limited business or general business zone, whereas previously property owners they could apply for a short-term license in a residential zone. So no one in a residential zone is given a license to do short-term rentals. This is an effort to combat the housing issues we're having. I would say demand for short-term stays is leveling out, where from 2020 every year it was increasing, but it is leveling out. It will be interesting to see how this summer's vacancies go, because there are 3 hotels that opened or reopened in 2024. We have the Pell, which used to be the Ramada, that was closed for 2 years for renovations. We have the Gardner House, which is a new hotel, and then the Wayfinder, which previously was open, but they had a fire and they've been closed for 2 seasons. I had one more thing on, it doesn't really matter. Okay, industrial market. Okay, just one more thing. For the hospitality, a big driver for like high-end hospitality is the America's Cup. The America's Cup is not coming to Newport this year, so it's going to Spain. So it will be interesting to see how that affects the hospitality this summer. So the industrial market, the overall theme is low inventory. I think we've all said that. Supply is tight, so similar to that of retail, and the rental rates for warehouse and tradesman centers is that of office rates. There were two larger for what we have, tradesman developments that broke ground in late 2023. One was on East Main Road in Portsmouth, which is a 9,000 square foot building set to be complete next month, and that is fully leased. And then 165 Oliphant Lane in Middletown, which is a 6,000 square foot building, which is set to be completed this summer. Developers are being challenged every step of the way with construction costs and zoning in each municipality. Both of those projects took almost a year to get approved. So the developer needed to have the long-term vision on that, but I think the East Main Road one filled up so quickly. I foresee 165 Elephant doing the same. And I think that's it.
Molly, I have a few questions for you. So it's interesting what you're talking about, that a lot of the corporations are giving an allowance to their employees to get a remote office. Can you expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, I mean, there's been, basically people it's almost like a bargaining chip. I mean, it hasn't happened to me personally, but it's almost like a bargaining chip. Like, I can work elsewhere, or I'm going to continue to work remotely. However, I need an allotted amount of budget per month to rent an office. And again, I think it's just an effort to retain the right employees.
Right after 9/11, there was a phenomenon they called reverse commuting, and people left New York City, sold their larger New York City properties, bought a smaller one, and moved to the suburbs. Is that something like that's happening in Newport?
I think the second home purchase is more in line with what you're saying. I think that
remote
people,
office,
I think people are, looking for a small office space close to their second home. They could be there, once a month, but I think those actually affect each other more than kind of like the post-COVID world.
One of the common threads I'm hearing from all the presenters is that we're still having some pushback with the zoning laws. And a while ago, we presented as part of one of these forums the new multi-point program that the state put out that shows all the changes in the zoning, where it's easier to change a commercial building to a residential, and the size zoning has been shrunk so you can put on a smaller footprint. So for all you that were on that and we're on this presentation, later on this year, we'll be doing a follow-up to that presentation to see what kind of projects have been used, have gotten creative with the developers that using these new state laws, and to see what projects have come out of that. So stay tuned for that for you. Molly, thank you very much for your presentation. I'm going to call the presenters no longer presenters, but data hounds, because there's so much work to go into this project that it's kudos to everyone, because there's hours and hours spent doing some market work here for you. So to all the presenters, thank you very much. For all the people that are out there, the participants that listen to our presentation, thank you very much. And then incidentally, we're always looking for new members at our board, and you can remain in your primary board and sign up for our board as a secondary member. So there's a contact right here on the slide, and info at our board. And there's also a pull down menu on our website for membership information. So again, thank you.